All right, well, welcome back to the final segment of China, the Grand Prize. I don't want to waste any time. Let's jump right into it. So we finished the last segment with, what do we do with China? The world's looking at China. All this stuff is happening. It's weak on the inside. It has internal conflicts. There are people within China that don't want China to mess things up. They don't want powers to come in and mess up their commercial trade. We've had the Sino-Japanese War, leaving China weak. Japan is more modern, militarized, and moving in. And you got all these external forces, Britain, France, Germany, Russia, United States, kind of coming in and just getting in their way and trying to take whatever they possibly can to make their own advantage. So what do we do about China, says the world? Well, if you look at it from the Chinese perspective, what are the Chinese options? What are their options? Well, one of them is they could do like they did before. They could just build up. They can focus internally and try to build up their strength so that they can push back or oppose or hold back those forces that are trying to come in. Or they can kind of take a more a hands-off type of deal and just let everybody beat each other up, fight for who's going to get what, and then when everybody's been beaten up, then step in and try to fight, and now everybody's weaker, and hopefully they'll be able to do more damage. Neither of these really works, and primarily one of the reasons why the building up part, the focusing internally, doesn't work is because of the Dowager Empress. When the emperor was in force and was had that 100 days reform, trying to build up China, she stepped in and killed it. She stopped it all, threw him into a house arrest, and so she's not going to be doing anything differently either. So what does China do then? What are their options? They don't have really a whole lot because everybody's fighting everybody. And I suppose it kind of depends. If you say, well, what is China going to do? It kind of depends on who you're asking. If you're talking about the Manchu court, that might have certain options. If you're looking at the viceroys, those who had those partnerships with foreigners, well, they're going to be a little bit different. They're not going to attack the foreigners. They're not going to beat up on the people that they're partnering with. What about the military leaders that are around at this time? What are they going to do? Well, they're probably looking for a war somewhere, someplace to fight. What are they going to do? Do they have the means, the power to do so? Do they have the modernization to do so? Probably not. And then what about the peasants, these people who are sort of like the stragglers, the leftovers, but who make up the majority of the population? What are they going to do, these reformers and revolutionaries? What's going to happen with them? And how would they say, this is what we should do? You can see how very diverse it is and conflicting. There is no clear voice, no one voice rising to the occasion and kind of leading them on, or leading them all at this time. Well, what about foreign perspectives? What are foreigners looking at China, and what kind of foreign policies might they put together? Well, one possibility is deliberate expansion. Deliberate expansion is sort of this, we're going to develop, take as much land as possible. We're going to move in and occupy. This would mean that I need to develop very strong political partnerships. Those people, the nobilities, the people that are in the upper courts, I need to go over and finagle them and work them a bit, so that I can have those inner voices, those inner powers to help me. I need to put boots on the ground. I need to get my people on Chinese territory, on the land. I need to control all the ports, all the accesses, ins and outs, all the commerce. I need to control all that. I need to control all the railways and all of the byways and highways. I need to control the finances. I need to have their money tied up with me. I can lend them money and then put certain demands on them as far as paying it back. And of course, I want to oppose any other foreign interference so that they don't come in. Germany is a big proponent of this kind of foreign policy. But there are others. Another policy, one that Britain really clung to during this time, was more of a passive open door. Open door sounds just like what it is. It's like somebody opening the door and welcoming you in and welcoming you out. It's very hospitable. But this is passive. So what does that mean? Well, it means that my interests are more commercial. I want the ability to have access to all different kinds of ports and commercial accesses. And of course, that means that if I'm going to be doing this, I want my people to be protected from local laws. We called those extraterritorial agreements. It means that if I have my sailors dropping off stuff in Canton, then the law in Canton can't bust and persecute or prosecute my guys. We have our own sets of laws because we're extraterritorial. I'm not really opposed if I'm Britain, if I'm this passive door. I'm not really opposed to people wanting to be, expansion and to grow bigger and take more. That's fine. That's opportunity. But I don't want that expansion for either myself. I don't want to have to go over and put my troops in there. I don't want to have to control anything. I don't want anybody else's problems. All I'm really interested in is just to make sure that nobody messes with what I got set up already. So that's more of a passive open door policy. Like I said, Britain was a big one of that one. Another one is an active open door policy. This is more along the lines of what the United States was doing during this time. Yes, you want that open commercial access to everybody, free trade, the whole bit. Security for the people, yes, you want to be able to make sure that your people don't get hindered or bothered or persecuted from the locals. You are opposed to expansion, though. You don't want foreigners in their country. Remember, this is liberal. There's a liberal imperialism here. We want to liberate that country. So we don't want foreigners coming in and taking over. We don't want to take over. We don't want somebody else taking over. We're going to fight for the rights for the native people to rule themselves. We're going to support their independence. But, because the world is what it is, we always want to keep in our back pocket a plan B just in case the foreigners actually decide they're going to actually move in and get all their policies in place and start hacking things to bits and taking bits and pieces of China. So we play a little bit like we're the good guy, like we are wanting to bring independence and liberties to the rest of the world, democracy to the rest of the world, but in reality, we have that plan B that if things kind of go sideways, we are able to grab what we can too. Option 4, this is an active partition. Partition means to cut in pieces. I apologize, let me go back. This is Dutch, so deliberate expansionism is Dutch. This one is Germany and France. These are the two that really want that active partition. They want to get their troops and their bases established very fast. They want to lay out terms of engagement with rival countries before carving up. Britain, we're going to go over and hack up this little piece right here. Is that okay with you? No? How about if we take this part right here? Yeah? Okay, great. That's what we're going to do. Don't bug us. We're going to go over and take that piece. So they're all negotiating how they're going to take whatever they want. That is active partition. So you end up with this hacking up of China. And these are two actual ads. One is the political cartoon that ran during this time. And you can see, Queen Victoria and the Kaiser and everybody down there with their own knives hacking up this pie called China. And China's in the background going, hey, hold on. That's one aspect. That's one rendition of it, one representation. But it went even farther than that because this ad, the one that's on your right, this actually ran in newspapers throughout the West. There's one in the United States, one in Britain, one in France. This one I think is in France. And this is, well, what will the final cut up look like? And that's China. Even though it says Great Britain and Germany and France and Italy and all these other places, that's China. And this is their assumption. You know, Russia will get the top part, then Germany will get their part, and then Great Britain and France, da 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 da. That's pretty bold. I mean, I can just imagine what people in China were thinking about this. Like, oh, what's going on here? It was more than just politics. Even it was spun sort of with an ideology. This idea of bringing salvation and righteousness and goodness and modernization to that foreign coast. This is the angel Michael out front, who's leading the way, and all these different characters are different pictures, different characterizations of different nations, whether it be Britain or the United States or France, with the cross above them. This was a very righteous, very religious kind of purification. We're going to take over that Buddha kind of country over yonder and bring about this transformation. This was done in 1895, by the way, and the Kaiser of Germany was the one who commissioned this particular sketch to be done. I mean, this was, it's not even your country, and you're over there doing stuff and hacking it to pieces. Anyway, on top of all this, as this is going on, as if this is not enough, you had the rise of the Boxer Rebellion from 1899 to 1901. Well, what was this? Well, this is a bunch of Chinese peasants who had suffered famines and bad crops and just really horrible conditions, and they wanted to take it out on somebody. And they felt that the foreigners in that northern region were the ones who were to blame. So let's go beat them up. Oh, wait a minute. Well, go back to whose perspective are you thinking of? What do you think China is going to do, or the viceroys? What are they going to think if Chinese peasants and rebels start rising up and beating up on their foreign partners? They're not going to let that go. So now you have Chinese fighting Chinese. Or if you have the Manchu court, they're kind of like, well, we're not very strong. We've been fighting. We don't have a whole lot of support throughout the region. Maybe we should just kind of leave our hands off and let this sort of like work its way out and until it's kind of fizzles out. There's so much going on. Well, lo and behold, the wisdom of the Dowager once steps in yet again, and this time she decides she's going to side with the Boxers, with the rebels, and she's going to declare all-out war on all these foreign entities against Britain and France and Germany, United States, all these. She's just we're gonna fight them all. And what ends up happening is the Qing people, the Qing powers, they lay siege to this huge building, this kind of like warehouse castle almost, near Peking. And this is where a foreign legation of several hundred foreigners, ambassadors, lots of them are civilians, and they lay siege to this place for 8 weeks. Well, there's the communications is completely cut off, and so there's nothing going out, nothing coming in. So the rest of the world who's not there watching, there's no telephones they can pick up at this time. They think all these delegates are dead, that they've been killed. So the United States primarily kind of leading this, but also all these other little pieces of these countries send this delegation of troops into Peking in the summer of 1900 to sort of kind of find a way to come up to find the peace, to find out what's going on. The viceroys begin working with the Americans. These are the Chinese nationals who have partnerships, commercial partnerships with the United States. They kind of get together and they're going to try to help prevent foreigners, particularly Britain and Germany and France, from just coming in and being so upset they're just going, we're going to hack it all to pieces and we're going to take our part. So America is kind of like, "Ooh, hold on, guys. You know, you're not going to come in here and do that, are you?" Kind of thing. And everybody sort of like pauses, like, no, maybe not. But in the process, the legation is relieved. They rescue the legation. The rebels flee. They run away. And now you have everybody sitting down going, okay, well, I guess the war is over. Okay, what are we going to do? What are the negotiated costs? What's going to be the outcomes? And so they all sit down because they're all sitting there. Of course, America is pressing its active open door policy, hands off, let China rule itself, independence, liberties for China, but we still want this ability to have trade and commerce. Russia begins to, they take advantage of this. They begin to move into Manchuria. They start to invade Manchuria. Of course, that's going to upset the Japanese because that's their kind of protected area. Others press on China for reparations. Well, you need to go over and pay us this much money, and you need to do this much for all the troops that you killed and all of the time that you wasted, blah, 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 blah. Well, 1900, we have election year, presidential election year back home in the United States. And the general public attitude is we don't want to be involved with foreign peoples. We don't want to get ourselves entangled in all that. We need to get out. So, so America says, okay, and they pull everybody out of China. Well, when America was like the only thing that was holding everybody back from slicing and dicing China and tearing it apart. So what happens? Russia becomes more aggressive. Japan and Britain look at Russia and go, oh, that's not a good thing. We don't want Russia to get the hand up by getting all this coal, by getting this Port Arthur port. We don't want them to have warm water access to build up their navy. We got to balance the powers of Europe again. Here's that same ridiculous clause. We got to suppress Russia because we don't want Russia to get too big. So who joins in? Britain comes around and says, Japan, we got this for you. You and I, we can make this work. And they work against Russia and just beat them. Just beat them. This leads to another war, the War of 1904-1905, and this is what results. Russia's busted out. The Tsar at the time is looked as being a major loser. He lost to this little bitty island people called Japanese. How could that possibly happen? He's put out of favor, and that's going to set up for the revolution, the rebellion against the Tsar. And that particular people is going to open up the door for Lenin and Trotsky and the communist movement to move in and eliminate them, eliminate the Tsar in that particular way of government. Lots is going on. And if you look at this thing, go back to that, situation, problem, opportunity. Here's your choices. Here's the things that we can do. Look at this. How many people have their little tentacles all over China, and then with one another, they got partnerships and alliances. They got treaties with one another. They're trying to go over and get special favor with China and ports, and they got money involved. Everything is all climbed. It's just this gigantic web of tangled mess. Welcome to the 20th century. That is what moves the world into the 20th century. And that is where we're going next week as we discuss the precursors to World War I. See you then.